There's something almost magical about watching a person step into a world they didn't know existed, especially when they're absolutely convinced their version of normal is universal. And nowhere does this cosmic misunderstanding play out more hilariously than when Americans wander across Europe, only to discover the continent didn't get the memo about how things are supposed to work, because here, the rules are older, the systems are different, and the confidence Americans pack in their luggage doesn't always translate. Today, we're diving into the funniest, strangest, and most eye-opening moments when Americans face Europe's reality, and Europe refuses to apologize for it. Act 1. The elevator incident that set the tone. Started with a story from a friend in Berlin who works in a modest 4-story office building. Nothing fancy, nothing confusing. Yet on one random Monday morning, American visitor stormed up to the reception desk looking like he'd just battled a ghost. He pointed at the elevator buttons. He whispered, "Your building is haunted." My friend asked what he meant, and the man, wide-eyed and panting, pressed his finger against the button labeled -2 like it was cursed. "There are negative floors," he said. "Negative. Who lives on -1? What's down there? Does gravity work differently here?" My friend explained calmly that in Europe, underground parking is normal. The guy stared in betrayal, as if Europe had invented a secret dimension specifically to confuse him. Still suspicious. He stepped into the elevator and announced, "If I don't come back up, tell my wife she can have my sneakers." 2 minutes later, he returned triumphant, clutching his rental car keys as if he'd escaped a dungeon. Europe. One American expectations. OACT. 2. When breakfast breaks worldviews in Oslo. A hotel chef told me he witnessed a couple from the U.S. become physically offended by eggs, not rotten, not raw, just Norwegian. The woman tasted them and recoiled like she'd swallowed something illegal. "These eggs are too soft." The chef explained they were slow-cooked, intentionally velvety. Velvety. She repeated. "Eggs shouldn't have a texture you can describe with shampoo words." Her husband chimed in with the kind of seriousness reserved for presidential debates. In America, eggs stand up straight. They have structure, confidence. They demanded firmer, hotter eggs, the kind that warns you you're eating something fresh. The chef made them a second batch, more well done. "This," the woman said proudly, "is what eggs are supposed to be." The chef later whispered to a coworker that Americans treat eggs the way Europeans treat wine. And honestly, he wasn't wrong. Act 3. The Amsterdam Canal Conspiracy. A friend who works at a hotel in Amsterdam once told me an American man rushed inside soaked from the rain. Absolutely furious. Not because he was cold, not because he was wet, but because he'd discovered something deeply unacceptable. He pointed at the canals and demanded, "Why are those things uncovered?" My friend blinked. "The canals? Yes." The man barked. "People could fall in. Cars could fall in. Birds are probably drowning by the thousands. Why isn't there a roof? A roof over the canals?" My friend gently explained that the waterways were historical. The man shook his head. "In America, we'd at least put a fence, a guard, a net, something. Basic safety. You people live like it's Mad Max out there. Europe just existed. And that alone was suspicious." Act 4. Athens and the Great Restoration. Argumente tour guide in Athens once led a group up to the Acropolis when one American tourist finally snapped. He pointed at the Parthenon and said, "Why don't you guys just fix it?" The guide explained the importance of preservation, archaeology. Respecting history, the man refused. His logic was simple. In America, if it's broken, we fix it. You're telling me no one in 2,000 years thought to hire a handyman? His wife whispered, "Honey, it's ancient." He ignored her. Then, with the confidence of someone pitching a billion-dollar app, he added, If this were in the US, it would have been rebuilt, repainted, and had a Starbucks inside by now. The guide smiled politely, but later admitted that comment alone was why Europeans tremble at American renovation ideas. Why do some people think history is a home improvement project? Act 5, Paris versus the 3 p.m. croissant crisis in Paris. A tourist walked into a bakery late in the afternoon and asked for a croissant. The cashier said they were sold out. The woman stared at him, horrified. "You're a bakery. How do you run out of bread?" "That's your entire job," he explained. "They bake fresh in the morning. When it's gone, it's gone." She gasped like she'd discovered betrayal. So Paris doesn't do 24-hour bread service. He shook his head. She muttered, "In America, we could sue for this." A man behind her whispered, "Madam, that is why France has better bread." She turned around, offended. Better? How can it be better if it's not always available? How indeed? Act 6, Stockholm's currency, mutiny in Stockholm. An American man tried to pay with a US $20 bill. The cashier explained they use Swedish krona. He insisted. But dollars are worth more. More value means universal acceptance. The cashier said gently, "We cannot resize the global economy for your convenience." He walked away, muttering, "This country needs financial guidance. Europe, to American expectations. Still OACT 7, Guinness, sugar, and the Irish war crime in Dublin." An American took a sip of Guinness and declared, "This tastes wrong." The bartender explained Guinness is fresher here. It's not sweet. "Enough," the man insisted. "Guinness isn't meant to be sweet," the bartender responded. "It tastes like a moral lesson," the man said. The bartender nodded. He wasn't wrong. Then, in full view of horrified locals, the man tore open sugar packets and poured them into the pint. An old Irishman at the bar stared, like he'd witnessed a felony. How do you explain to someone that stout isn't supposed to taste like a milkshake? SCT8 Rome, pasta, and portion strategy in Rome. An American woman finished half her pasta and asked for a to-go box. The waiter explained. Italians typically finish their meals on the spot. She was horrified. All of it, at once. That's unhealthy. When he didn't bring a box, she leaned in and whispered, "Is this a cultural test?" He eventually retrieved a plain plastic container, carrying it like contraband. She triumphantly packed her leftovers as if she'd won a war against centuries of culinary tradition. Act 9. Warsaw and the scalding shower, showdown in Warsaw. An American guest insisted his shower wouldn't get hot enough. The staff tested it. It was nearly boiling. "Don't touch it." The man shouted, "That's cold. I want American hot. The kind where you reconsider your life." The staff explained boilers are limited for safety. "That's the problem," he replied. Too much government control. When told raising temperatures would injure people, he said, "That's how you know it's working." Act 10. Zurich's suspicious silence. A tourist in Switzerland phoned reception demanding help. "The silence is too quiet," she said. "It feels like the city is planning something." The staff offered a white noise machine. "That's fake noise," she replied. "I need authentic chaos, sirens, traffic, a car alarm at 3 a.m. When told Zurich simply doesn't have chaos, she whispered, "Then how do people know they're alive?" An excellent question. Act 11. Helsinki and the Midnight Sun, panic in Finland. An American visitor rushed downstairs pale with terror. "Why is the sun still up?" He whispered. "Did someone forget to turn it off?" The receptionist explained the midnight sun. He didn't believe a word. "The planet tilts. Is that safe? Shouldn't someone fix it?" Then he hung a towel over his window like he was blocking nuclear fallout. Act 12. Thermal spas. Soup and nature's crime, Min Budapest. An American woman entered a thermal spa and demanded a refund. The pool is hot, she said. The lifeguard explained it was natural geothermal water. She shook her head. No pool should be this warm. This feels like soup. He told her nature regulates the heat. She replied, that's dangerous. In America, we control our heat. Hungarians quietly pretended not to laugh. Act 13, Porto. Fortified wine and military-grade grape juice in Portugal. An American man tasted port wine and coughed like he'd swallowed fire. Why is it so strong? It's fortified, the guide explained. Fortified. Like military grade. He insisted wine should taste like slightly confident grape juice. A grandmother behind him muttered, these people have no soul. Europe, 3 wine expectations. Demolished Act 14. Edinburgh and the Castle. Reality check-in, Scotland. An American family arrived at the castle and asked where to check in. For your room. The guide asked. Yes, they said. It advertises lodging, right? She explained it was a historical monument. They stared. So you're telling me this whole building is just old? Yes, that's the point. Act 15. Croatia and the island that wasn't in Croatia. A tourist refused to board a ferry because the island looked connected to the coast. If this boat turns out to be a bus, he yelled, I'm suing. Other passengers stared out to sea like actors ignoring a camera. Act 16. Vienna's opera, shock in Vienna. An American couple panicked mid-performance. They're singing the whole time. When does the real music start? They asked the usher if the opera could switch to English that night. He nearly fainted. They left whispering. Europe complicates everything. Act 17. Athens and the suspiciously old tree. A tourist pointed at an olive tree near the Acropolis. How old is that thing? Centuries, the guide said proudly. The man froze. That's older than my country. That's suspicious. He asked if they kept old trees on purpose, like decoration. History shook its head quietly. Act 18. Lisbon and the polite mountains in Lisbon. A hotel worker described an exhausted American collapsing in the lobby. He said, your streets are insane. It's like climbing a polite mountain. When she explained the 7 hills, he demanded, flatten it out. Bring bulldozers. Create balance. The city declined. Act 19. Salt mines, fantasy, and mermaids in the Wieliczka salt mine, an American. Woman looked around the underground chapels and carvings and asked if miners built it using magic chisels. When she saw the underground lake, she gasped. Do you keep mermaids here? The guide didn't even try to respond. Act 20. Bergen and the malfunctioning weather, Norway. A tourist stormed into a lobby drenched in rain and shouted, your weather is broken. The receptionist explained Bergen is known for unpredictable showers. No, he replied. Weather needs consistency. Pick rain or sun. Nature disagreed. Act 21. The true lesson. The funniest thing about these stories isn't the confusion itself. It's the confidence. The certainty that if something doesn't match American norms, the universe must be glitching. But in reality, most of the world isn't wrong. It's just different. Confusion becomes comedy when confidence walks in first. Travel exposes the assumptions we didn't know we had. And if you enjoyed this journey through cultural misfires, hit like and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more global stories that make the world feel bigger, stranger, and infinitely more human. Act 16. Vienna's opera, shock in Vienna. An American couple panicked mid-performance. They're singing the whole time. When does the real music start? They asked the usher if the opera could switch to English that night. He nearly fainted. They left whispering. Europe complicates everything. Act 17. Athens and the suspiciously old tree. A tourist pointed at an olive tree near the Acropolis. How old is that thing? Centuries, the guide said proudly. The man froze. That's older than my country. That's suspicious. He asked if they kept old trees on purpose, like decoration.